Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. It's great to be back here. So I came last year. To be invited once is great. To be invited a second time, Marco, and Channel City as well, is obviously a good sign. So I hope that my presentation will be interesting for you about the Italian and the European market based on research that we've just completed, very recent research. So my name is Adam Simon. I'm from the company Context, and today we're going to look at what resellers are thinking and through the survey that we have done. Just for those of you who do not know Context, I know Context is well known. Isabel, my colleague, very well known in the Italian market. So we are global, and we cover sales tracking, price tracking, and we have a channel management business, and we're in a number of different countries. This year we added Argentina, the quickest new opening of a country that we've ever done. We opened it up within 6 months. So that's very good. And I do apologize before we start for the fact that my Italian is too basic to speak to you in your own mother tongue. So I thank you very much for your understanding for me to do this in English. And this is what we're going to do. We've got to do 6 things. You have to sit through my talk before you get to hear about the Distributors of the Year awards that we're making this year. But we're going to take the temperature of the channel. We're going to look and see how resellers are thinking, what they're investing in, and how they are evolving. Then we're going to see where they are in investing, in particular. We're going to look at this digital revolution which is taking place. We're in the middle of it, which is why I called this talk the Digital Revolution Continued, because we're in the middle of a massive revolution. And we'll see where we are in this revolution. What do resellers value most from their distributor partners? Which vendor is giving them the best marketing programs? And then we end off with the distributor awards. So this is the people who responded to our survey. We had a magnificent response from Italian resellers. We had over 2,500 responses from Italian resellers. So I give a massive thank you to our distributor partners for pushing this with resellers, and it is the country where we have the most responses. Overall, we have around about 8,000 responses across 11 or 12 different countries. And you can see that in the composition in Italy, more SMB resellers, because we know that the Italian market is more fragmented than other markets. You can see that. And you can see that the majority of people who respond less than 10 employees. We then look at how it's split. You can see that it's pretty much 50-50 B2B and B2C resellers. And if you look at the graph on the right-hand side, you will see that Italy has the higher percentage of B2C resellers, so that's small resellers selling to consumers. And then if you go to the right, you see that Germany has the highest concentration of B2B resellers. Okay. So first of all, we take the temperature. How is the morale of the Italian and the European channel? Well, there's good news for Italy. Italy has been a star for the last 18 months in the channel. Last year, Italy was the fastest growing country, major country in Europe, achieving overall 10% growth, and in Q4, 14% growth. If you look at the first 2 quarters, this is up until the end of June, you can see that Italian growth 6.4% compared to the prior year, the 6-month period. So very nice. The highest growth rate of the big economies, other than Spain and Portugal, which is at 10%. And it is still, for the channel, for distribution, the third largest country in Europe. So it goes Germany, UK, Italy. Italy overtook France a few years ago and is still just ahead of France for the channel in our context numbers, obviously. And you can see other countries there. Some of them have had a difficult year. Countries like Turkey, they've been really impacted by a crash in their currency. Their inflation rate went up to 25%. Any of you as old as me remember the 1970s when we all had inflation rates that were that high? In any case, this was only this year with Turkey, 25% inflation. And you can see the other countries as well. So this is pure financial, and it's growth, and it's measured in euros. Okay, now we're going to look at the feeling of the channel, and we're going to plot the feeling of the channel against the growth. So here we are, same growth curve, and what we have here is what we call net reseller sentiment. So we ask people, is the next 12 months going to get better, worse, or stay the same? And so our measure is we take those who say better, we take away the ones who say worse, and we ignore the people who say stay the same. So that means look how nice and positive the channel is in Germany, where the positive sentiment has grown. Normally the Germans are very conservative, and their economy is going through a very tough time. They're about to go into recession. But still, they think that things are going to get better, the resellers. That's good news. Then you look at Italy, one of the highest levels of positive reseller sentiment. So that's good, because we're talking about people who invest and have confidence because they feel that the future is going to be better. There are some strange ones, like for example, if you look at the UK, you can see that confidence is a lot higher than last year, when at the moment growth isn't very good in the UK, and we're still facing all the uncertainty of, I won't say the B word, but you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yes, all that horrible uncertainty that everyone is facing at the moment. And then a little shout out for South Africa, which is a country that is has the highest net reseller sentiment. It's the first year they've taken part in our survey. We're about to open up a panel in South Africa, and look how confident they are. And the economy is not great, and the prospects are not great at the moment. But in any case, it's nice to see the IT sector being so confident. So that's a little look at how things are. Then we asked resellers these are all the Italian, I just chose some responses. What makes you feel positive? Well, some people think that the economy is going to get better. Some people think there's going to be less bureaucracy. Then they're looking at structural changes, potentially opening of new channels, more competitive pricing. I like this one, blocking the under-cost e-commerce. I don't know if in Italy you've done the same. In France, they've just introduced a 3% digital tax on everything that goes through Amazon, so that they're starting to attack this unfairness, structural unfairness in the market. Of course, the end of Windows 7. This is a big motivator for upgrading, and the business side of the channel has been growing a lot with the end of Windows 7. And then what is enabling the digital revolution? Getting new skills, digital change, all these different areas of opportunity. I like this one. IT services are always growing, always growing. I like that one. That's so true. That's a good source of optimism. And then clients getting to know more about IT opportunities. And of course, there were two. I had to put those in. Why do you feel optimistic? One said because of a miracle. and one said because of a magic wand. So I think that they weren't taking our survey very seriously, but everyone has their own way of looking to the future. Then we asked them what their concerns were. So some people are less optimistic about the economy, and they think that bureaucracy is going to increase. They're also worried about increases in VAT. I don't know if that's a real possibility here in Italy. The difficulty of finding human resources. This is very real in the IT sector. Keeping hold of people is very hard. Uncertainty, and then payments not being on time. Big problems, challenge with commercial online sales. We're going to see that in a minute. And then the blockers to the digital revolution, ignorance of the client. Very often it's what prevents things growing. Obsolete ways of thinking, and then also fears of saturation of the market. I don't think that's a real thing we need to worry about. The IT market has always found new opportunities to grow. I'm going to pick up on the online comment because I want to share with you data. This is not context data. This comes from a company called Global Data, and it shows the percentage of electrical goods sold online in 2018 compared to 2017. The reason I wanted to share it with you is look at Italy in 2018. Italy is in the middle. It's not one of the highest online countries. It's down at around about 30%, a bit less than that, 25%. But it grew very much in 2018. So this is very real, the growth of online, and this data shows it from Global Data. And then the question is, well, let's have a look and see how much are resellers using e-commerce in order to buy products? Let's have a look and we'll see what they said in the survey. Well, the interesting thing is that Italian resellers use e-commerce the least of all the countries that we surveyed. 70% of Italian resellers never use e-commerce. And if you look at Turkey, that same percentage is about 20%. You can see there's a big variation, but Italy means that resellers tend to be more loyal to their distributors and not going online. However, 30% go online to buy products. So what do they buy? Last year we didn't ask that question. This year we did. So we can tell you what it is they buy mainly. Components and accessories is by far the most popular thing that people buy from, that resellers buy from e-commerce. You can see that they're up at the 50% mark, and everything else is much lower, 20% down to virtually nothing. Networking, they say 0. So I hope that's true for some of the networking vendors who are sitting here. Okay, but you can see other percentages up there. So then the next question is, where are the resellers investing? Where do they think they can bet their money for the future? And we split the responses into B2B and B2C. So the B2B resellers put networking as number one in Italy and across the whole of, in fact, the surveyed countries. They then, after that, put cloud and cybersecurity. Those are the three big ones. I don't think there's any surprise for you there that it should be the case. A little bit less for cloud, Italy compared to other countries, and you'll see that we see that in other parts of the survey. I wanted to share with you a beautiful networking slide which shows the power of getting the price right of this new networking equipment. So this is from our data, and it shows what's happened with mesh Wi-Fi systems since Q4 2016. So what you can see is a beautiful supply and demand curve. You can see the supply obviously goes up, and in fact the price comes down. That's the yellow line. So as it starts to be at a price that people think, yes, I can afford to have a Wi-Fi mesh system, so the volumes have gone up. So this is a very nice example of the type of growth which is taking place in networking. And I love this. This is, you know, that we all live and die to have our Wi-Fi. This is Maslow's pyramid. You know, normally food and water is the number one priority. But for most of us, we start gasping and panicking if we haven't got Wi-Fi. And so what is Wi-Fi doing? Wi-Fi, of course, is enabling the growth of so much other technology. And we see a lot of the new Wi-Fi protocols growing in terms of volume as well in recent years, and allowing the whole sector to grow. So in terms of cloud services, you can see that it really is taking off. This is showing the cloud services provided by Italian resellers in the last 6 months. Backup has gone down, and the main reason is that the competition is, of course, going direct for resellers, and for obviously the individuals to go direct. But you can see in all the other categories that there's growth in Italy in terms of the solutions being offered by Italian resellers. This is very encouraging for the growth of cloud services in Italy. When you look, you can see that cloud is mainstream for B2B resellers, except in Russia, the only country where we say, have you sold no cloud services? So 61% of Russian resellers said that they sold no services in the cloud. And Spain, only 17% said that they sold no services in cloud. And in Italy, that was 23%. So that means it really is becoming mainstream. We can see that through the data that we've got there. If we move now to consumer, what we can see is that people are investing in core IT, and that the consumer resellers are looking at PCs. Look how PCs, the absolute engine of the channel, is still what resellers say they're going to invest in 2019, and a reflection of this Windows upgrade. I'm sure that that's the case, and that's why. We see software, SSDs, components, accessories. And what we see also is that even when you get to things like headsets, wearables, and smart home, you can see that this is becoming really much more standard for resellers. Smart home has grown a lot in Italy this year. Wearables is now a lot bigger business as well in the channel. So you can see that this is becoming an important part of it. I thought I'd share with you how the PC went and why the PC is bringing money to the channel, because what's happened is that the sweet spot of the PC has moved up. So with all of the new convertibles, the ultra-thin PCs, you can see that what's happening is that the sweet spot is moving up. And this is part of the strategy of the PC vendors, and it's actually what our data is showing, that the sweet spot is a lot higher. And the other thing which is happening in the PC business, which is very exciting for the consumer and for the businesses, is it's horribly complex to buy PC. You don't know. There's so many different models around, but it is getting simpler. So we've tracked the number of SKUs that are sold in PCs, both in consumer and business. And you can see that in 4 of the 5 countries, the number of SKUs has gone down 2018 compared to 2017. Look at Italy, nearly 7% reduction in the number of SKUs. And Intel has been pushing this hard, saying to people, reduce the number of SKUs that you sell, you will sell more. And I've heard retailers get up there and say that this is what they've done. There's one, DG Sharaf in Dubai, they cut dramatically the number of SKUs they were selling and have increased their sales. So that's on the consumer side. And also on the business side, same thing. Italy has reduced the number of SKUs in the business notebooks as well. So the business is getting simpler. Now we're going to look at the emergence of next generation resellers. So this is part of the digital revolution. And we've used for this the IDC analysis of what makes up a next generation reseller. So we have analyzed our resellers in this way who've responded to the survey, and this is what Italy looks like, okay? So a next generation reseller, according to IDC, sells all three parts of the offering, so hardware, software, services, and has developed its own intellectual property, its own IP. So the question is, in Italy, how far is that revolution taking place? And I'm going to share with you those details. So firstly, there's still a core of people, 22.5% of the resellers, that only sell hardware. Okay, very few that just sell software or just sell services. Okay, very few that sit in that intersection between two. They're very minor when we ask them. Very few said that. The majority are selling all three. So 67.3% of the Italian respondents say, I sell services, hardware, and software. 25% of inside that 67% also sell a category called other. And I'm cross that we didn't ask them what other is, but it means other services, other whatever, okay? So, but 15% sell their own IP. So that means 15% have developed customized solutions for their end customers. Okay. Now let's have a look and see how important this IP is to their revenues. Look at this. Isn't this fascinating? You'll see that, look in Italy, how many, we asked them how much of your revenue is generated from your own IP. So for that 15% of people in Italy who have their own IP, you can see that 50% of them generate less than 25% of their revenues, but there's about 25% that develop 25 to 49%. There's 12% that get 50 to 75% of their revenues from their own IP that they've developed. And then if you look at how Italy compares to other countries, this is where there's an opportunity for Italy. Because when you look at the other countries and you see the percentage of resellers which have developed their own IP, you can see that Italy has still got a little bit of progress to make there. So this is a great challenge for the channel, for resellers to develop their own intellectual property. And we are convinced, and so is a lot of people in the channel, that if they develop their own intellectual property, they will be able to grow in the new market. And lastly, we asked them about digital transformation, how they feel about digital transformation. I was a bit disappointed with this. I thought there'd be a bit more excitement in their responses. I think the overall message which is coming over is, we know a lot about digital transformation. We'd like to know more. And the only thing which is interesting about Italy compared to the rest of Europe is that there's a little bit more caution about investing in digital transformation. 52% are delaying investment in digital transformation because of the cost, but in Italy that is 60%. So again, this is a barrier. What do resellers, we're now going to get on to what resellers most value about their distribution partners. This is a great moment, hopefully, to reflect and to see what it is that distributors are really adding value to their reseller partners. So we asked two questions. What are you good at doing? And what is important for resellers? So what does the reseller think the distributor does well? And what is important for the resellers? So you see that on-time delivery, product availability, and multi-vendor integration are the three top areas where the resellers say that distributors do a good job. Training and certification, lead generation to help secure new customers are the areas where they could improve. When we asked them what was important, you will see a very similar order, but some changes. So this is what is important. How important is it to you? On-time delivery, product availability is still number 1. Customer portal goes into the number 3 spot. You know, the more that customers go online, the more they expect distributors to have a customer portal which is as user-friendly as some of the consumer sites which they use. And then the other thing is that training is important, as is the lead generation. It comes up a rank. That's more important to people. We ask people which vendor's channel marketing program is the most value in Italy, and I can share the top 10 which came out from the survey. What happens in our results of this is there are 4 vendors that always come out very strongly, and then there's a long tail that goes behind it. So the 4 vendors which came top, HP, Lenovo, Dell, Microsoft. In terms of Italy, Dell was number 2, and Lenovo was number 3. So Dell did better than Lenovo. And then the others in the dark blue have also done well, but they're quite a long way. If you saw the numbers, you'd realize that the votes are very strongly for those 4 big vendors in terms of the impact on their business. And just a little plug to let you know that our Channel Watch survey will be available at the end of October, and so please contact Isabel if you're interested in having a copy of our Channel Watch survey, which we produce once a year, which gives you more of the detail about it. So now, does anyone have any questions at all? No? Okay, fine. So thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.